Uh, We'd like you to do an introduction of yourself, Commissioner, and then we'll go on to a question and answer session.
Okay. So thank you for having me. This is so awkward, but I'm going to do my best. Yeah, thanks for having me. I am coming from a meeting. I apologize for being late. So I'm County Commissioner Denise Driehaus. We've got so many things going on at the county, not the least of which is due in large part to President Biden and the Congress for giving us American Rescue Plan dollars to make sure that we are addressing some of the needs in our community that resulted from COVID, some of them being emergent needs like rental assistance, small business assistance. We helped out some nonprofits. You know some of the work that we've done, but we also took about half of those dollars and did some transformative work and broke them down into buckets. And so we have just received the results of an RFP for $40 million related to housing. We're going to be doing as much as we can with those dollars and leveraging with the city, the state, and others to try to provide for, as you all know, we've got a housing deficit in Hamilton County. Some of the money went to mental health. You may know that young people in particular are really suffering right now with mental health issues. So we put some of it there. We're doing some workforce development, particularly in areas where we lost people. Think about nurses and childcare workers. A lot of women dropped out of the workforce, and so we're trying to provide incentives and money for them to get back into the workforce, and especially related to childcare, in order that other people can get back into the workforce. And so those are some of the things that we've been doing. And then, you know, as I said, there's so much going on. We've been talking about the Bengals. We've been talking about the Convention Center District. We've always got MSD issues that we talk about. So I just as soon go to Q&A if you want. So I'm talking about what you all want to talk about. And it can either be on the policy side or the political side. And let me just say on the political side, you know, there are races this year well, you know about the ballot initiative in August, and then we've got the city council races and local races coming up. And then there are a whole bunch of us up in 2024, not the least of which is the Sherrod Brown race, which I think is going to be more competitive than what we're used to. And so I think we need to focus our efforts and our time and energy in making sure that Sherrod has what he needs in Hamilton County. And then, of course, we've got Greg Landsman back on the ballot. We'll obviously have the presidential. We got a couple county commissioners, myself included, and a whole bunch of countywide offices on the ballot. So it's going to be a really interesting year in 2024. But we're already thinking through, you know, how we all collaborate, do a coordinated campaign, and try to push Democrats out to the polls in 2024. So with that, that's
Great.
kind of my overview. Happy to answer questions.
Okay, great. We had sent a one overall question we had to do with issue 1, and I apologize if I missed it, but we were wondering if you were planning on making a public statement related to issue 1.
Well, yeah, I will likely closer to, because what I generally try to do is encourage people to remember to get out and vote. So I try to do that in a general way, nonpartisan way. However, with this particular issue, I find it to be offensive that we are going to be voting on this particular issue in August, when we just heard, you know, last year that we're not doing these special elections anymore. They're too expensive, and they are. It's very difficult to get poll workers. The Board of Elections is now struggling once again to get people to participate as poll workers, and we have a terribly low turnout. And they're trying to drive a result that they want to try to preordain. So I think it's a terrible idea. Never mind, it's an August election, which I think is a terrible idea in general. But then the issue itself and trying to raise the threshold for people to be able to weigh in on their government, I think is unfortunate, and I do not support it. So yes, I will likely make a statement closer to, in the context of, let's not forget to get out and vote no on this issue, because it's just wrong-minded, and I think it's undemocratic.
Okay, great. And we'll open it up to other questions. Who would like to go first? Just speak up.
Right, I'll go.
Go ahead.
Hi, Denise.
Hello.
I may have a question later about the food system issues, but because I know that you're interested in those things. But you mentioned some of the places that you are putting money that came to you from the federal government on various things like mental health and et cetera. And I'm wondering, is that money that gets passed through to other organizations, or is it all administered through county departments?
No, so what we do, and generally this is how the county does business. We, as policymakers, identify a goal addressing mental health issues for teens, say, and then we put out an RFP, a request for proposal, and say, this is our goal. This is what we're trying to accomplish. Partners in the community, agencies, providers that do this work, please apply to be the provider of what we're trying to accomplish. And so they respond to the RFP. We have a panel set up. They go through the different agencies that have responded, make sure they're eligible and whatnot. And then they choose which ones hit the mark. And then eventually the county commissioners vote on that. The role of the commissioners is to set the priorities, but no, we do not do the programming, nor do many of our departments do the programming. We rely on local partners to do that.
Okay, great.
So a follow-up, if I may.
Go ahead.
Is that why you are on these various boards? Are you then able to mind the follow-ups, so to speak, as you go along, or is that not part of what you do?
I don't sit on any of those boards. Do you mean the boards of the agencies?
The agencies that you are listed in your bio as you're on this board and that.
Yeah, no. But the RFP does include what we want, but then they have to verify that the agencies that they did the work, and this is how they impacted kids' lives and that kind of thing. So there has to be some kind of follow-up there. But by the way, they're federal dollars, and there are some strings attached to the federal dollars. But no, we rely on staff to put that into the RFP, and then we hear back from the organizations. But I don't think I sit on any of the boards.
Well, maybe I misunderstood when I read all those acronyms and so forth.
I don't sit on this
on your bio. Okay.
Okay.
I sit on things like the Solid Waste Policy Committee. That's what I sit on. So the Solid Waste Policy Committee is about trash. I mean, and trying to divert trash from the landfill. And I should have mentioned that the county has been doing some sustainability work, some green work in years past, especially related to our buildings. We've got solar panels on some of our buildings, and we're looking at EVs right now and increasing our fleet. We're building out some parking garages, and all of them have charging stations in them. So we look a little different now than we used to, by way of some of these forward-thinking goals related to the climate, and we're partnering with the city to try to steal some of their good ideas and then collaborate when we can. So I should have, Chris actually is leading some of this in my office. So the green stuff is, again, the county has changed since I've been there. And we are really trying to move aggressively in some of these forward-thinking spaces, like the green stuff, the sustainability stuff.
Great. Dee?
Hi, this is Dee Chavez. Hi, Denise. My question might be related to your last question on mental health resources. I was wondering how the commission is going to go about helping with increasing nurses and childcare workers in the county. How is that accomplished?
So we put out an RFP for both of these. And what we're trying to do is build the pipeline of individuals that are interested in these two fields. And so we are partnering with Cincinnati State to educate individuals to become nurses. And so that is a clear track for them to get degreed and to move into the profession. The other group that we're partnering with on the childcare front is 4C. So 4C trains individuals to become childcare workers. What we're finding is that the childcare agencies have the space for more kids. They don't have the employees. It's like so many other things. They don't have the staff. And so 4C can help build the pipeline of individuals that go into that. So on those two specific things, and they're really important, we are partnering with those two organizations.
And what is RFP? I forgot what you said that stands for.
It's a request for proposal.
Okay.
And we put them out. And then there's a 30-day window. Organizations apply to do the work, and then we award the contracts.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks for the question.
Yep. Another question. I'll ask a question. You mentioned that as a result of the Biden administration, we're receiving $40 million for public funding or housing, excuse me. Is there a time period in which that is to be spent, and will it be renewed once that is spent?
So to be clear, and I think I may have, the way I stated, I think it was confusing. We got $158 million from the federal government through the American Rescue Plan. And I do want to reiterate, it's because of Joe Biden that we had the opportunity to do this work in Hamilton County and every other community in the country. So we took, the county commissioners said 40 million of that, and it's the largest chunk of all the funding that we allocated. 40 million of that is going to go towards housing, because we know we are so desperately in need of housing. And so we put out an RFP. The Cincinnati Development Fund responded to that, and they won the contract. And so the 40 million is sitting over in CDF. The city also gave money to CDF. The state, they partner with the state with tax credits. There are private entities putting money into CDF. And so what's happening is we're leveraging this money, and we're trying to create some density. We're also trying to be last money in for shovel-ready projects that are ready to go. To your question about timing, we know that we need to do this sooner than later. And so we're trying to look at projects that already have the majority of the funding and are ready to go, and then try to partner in that way. But we're also trying to create density, and I don't want to, because to do a few is not as good as doing many in many circumstances. But these are one-time dollars. And so once these dollars are spent, then they're spent. And I think it's highly unlikely that the federal government is going to do another round of this kind of funding, because it's all related to COVID. That said, we're trying to leverage as much as we can to expand the impact of that $40 million.
All right, thank you. Matt?
Yeah, thanks for coming, Commissioner. I probably know the answer to this already, but just bringing up some of the things that are happening in the state legislature, specifically with the education stuff that's going on, and some of the, stripping away people's civil rights if you're, a transgender kid or some of these things. Is there any policy on the county level that we could do here in Hamilton County that could kind of mitigate some of that stuff and help people that need it?
Well, I tell you what, it's all, well, it's not all bad, but a lot of it's bad at the state level. We've got a legislature that doesn't care about what the majority of Ohioans think related to some of the policies that they're putting in place. I'm especially concerned about the education piece and peeling away resources from public schools. And I was a state rep for 8 years, and I was very clear on the obligations of a state rep are to pass a budget by the end of June and provide for a common, adequate public education. And they're simply not living up to the second piece. And it's very concerning because public schools are the ones that are going to suffer. So on the LGBTQ front, we've already passed, and this preceded me because I looked at it when I got to the county commission. I said, oh, because the Fairness Act, the legislation at the state level that says you can't fire someone or kick them out of housing because of their sexual orientation or gender identity, that already is in the policy at Hamilton County. David Pepper and Todd Bortoon did it, which I was thrilled about. A little disappointed I didn't get to do it myself, but anyway, I'm glad they did. And by the way, that has not passed at the state level yet. And we tried the entire 8 years I was there. So these attacks on people, on young people in particular, are really troubling. But I don't know where they're going to go. When I was up there, I had the bill that banned conversion therapy in Ohio. I got one hearing on that bill, and the other side of the aisle got so uncomfortable with the conversation. And this has been a number of years ago. They literally got up and walked out. So it's all bad, and it's sending the wrong message. And I will tell you this: as you hear leadership at the state level talk about Intel and bringing young people into this state for all these high-paying jobs, I have had a conversation with both the governor and the lieutenant governor about, that's all fine and good, but if you continue to have wrong-minded policy related to LGBTQ people in this state, you are not going to attract young people because they don't want to live here, because you're sending the wrong message of intolerance. I've been told that they're not hearing that, and I said, "Well, I'm happy to convey all the stuff I'm hearing." It's really disappointing, and I really think it's going to have a huge negative impact on the state of Ohio, because young kids don't want to live here. I mean, my own kids don't want to live here because of the tone and the tenor that's being set by this legislature. It's sad.
Mine too.
No,
Yeah.
that's right, Brewster. And our kids are smart kids. They know what they're doing. But I got one in New York and one in Denver, and they both happen to be gay, but that's not even it, right? I mean, they're both saying, "What are you all doing in Ohio? It's so unwelcoming. Why would we want to move back there?" And it breaks my heart.
I would think that it's got to have an impact on our people wanting to come here to go to college
Absolutely.
as well. I think the colleges are being told you cannot speak out on certain things and what have you, which is terrible. Talk about freedom of speech. It's almost gone in this state.
On top of that, the reproductive rights.
That's right. That's right.
Right. And reproductive rights. And
Well, let's be
but
honest, that's the reason for the August election, is the reproductive rights issue. I mean, that is the reason for the August. And they're saying, I mean, they've actually said it out loud. So I'm not just making that up. Hey, can I say something on a lighter note and a more positive note? Brewster, I didn't realize you were on because I've got a very limited view on my phone. We are also providing resources for bike trails in Hamilton County, and that's a new look for us too. So we got $500,000 in our most recent budget, and it should be ongoing unless we take it out. It remains, and so we are trying to build infrastructure in the county. And remember that we've got great partners at the city, but we also have some money over at SORTA that can be used for multimodal transportation, and great parks can be a partner in this if there's a nexus to a park. So we're trying to figure out how to leverage that money, but it's a new space for us. We've done this kind of hit and miss in the past, but $500,000 every year until we take it out is a lot of money for the county to dedicate to this. And the first trail that I am most interested in is right up the Mill Creek. with the restoration of the Mill Creek and the communities that are impacted there. Think about Millvale and South Cumminsville and the Fairmounts. These are communities that are not used to investment, especially in recreational investment in their communities. And so we need to do better. And so this artery moves straight up the middle of the county, all the way to the north, also gets us closer to some west side bike trails, which we're sorely lacking on the west side when it comes to bike infrastructure. And so I'm super excited. I got that in the budget and I was really excited about that.
Well, thank you so much. It's just wonderful. Your leadership is fantastic, and it's a model for other counties as well. So it's moving fast, and it's all affecting the quality of life and bringing equity to the bike trail system in the city. So
That's
good
right.
job.
Thanks, Bruce.
That's great. Any other questions right now?
I have a question that you mentioned mental health in teenagers, and I had just heard something on NPR about anxiety in children and having a yearly evaluation. I just speak to any of that. The fact that you brought it up makes my heart happy, and the fact that we so often just deny there's a mental health issue. We fix things like that there, and we forget the impact of what that accident or that attack or that whatever happened. We forget that, and we don't put it at we don't hardly put it on the page, much less address it. So thank you. And thank you for all your work.
Yeah, thanks. So, well, COVID did a real number on kids, and they're feeling isolated. They're feeling depressed. Suicides are up. And I will tell you this. Where I first really heard this clearly was on the Commission on Women and Girls. So we created the commission in 2017. I was the first woman elected to the county commission. So we set up this Commission on Women and Girls. And the first cohort back in 2017, there was a young girl. She was a high school student over at Seton High School, and she was on a committee related to mental health. And she said, and we had these kids do interviews with other people to expand the work. She interviewed her sister, and she said her sister suffered from mental health issues. And I said, what do you mean? And she said, she's really struggling. And that was the first kind of inkling. And I said, oh, wait a minute, this is something we need to take a look at. Since then, the Commission on Women and Girls did a PSA during COVID to talk about isolation and feeling alone. And it's a huge issue. And so the RFP that we did, I wish I could, I don't know if you remember the amount that we put towards that. It was a lot of money, but there are a lot of organizations in Hamilton County, especially related to teen mentoring and peer-to-peer mentoring for teens, because they respond to their friends, right? To their cohort. And so we're in schools with a lot of this mental health work, trying to prevent suicide and give kids peer-to-peer support to help them through what is a really challenging time for them.
Okay. Sue Ellen.
Yeah, I wonder if you might speak to, am I on mute? No.
No.
I wonder if you might speak to what some of the committees that your colleagues are on are doing. I know that you're on, different committees, but.
Any in particular?
Well, the other commissioners. Are they?
Right, I'm wondering if, go ahead.
Well, are they appointed at any, you have your specialties, it would seem to me.
Well, Sue, let me just explain
trash.
that. Trash and sewers. I hear what you're saying. So, and sometimes it happens by default, like they want something, and then I'm like, I become Todd Portune. It's like, what's left over? What can I do? And I say that out of respect for Todd, because I love Todd. But yeah, so they sit on Oh, SWORD, which is a workforce development committee. I mean, and I can't really speak to what they're involved in because I don't sit on those committees. But we all sit on the land bank committee, so we're trying to do work when it comes to, again, development in some of these underserved neighborhoods or areas that have vacant land or vacant properties, and trying to revitalize business districts, but also revitalize chunks of neighborhoods that have not seen a lot of investment. So the land bank is doing a lot of that work. So we're all three sitting on that one. And again, it relates to this housing piece. We know we've got a crisis in the community related to housing. But if there's anything in specific that you're referring to, I'd be happy to answer. But generally speaking, I mean,
Okay.
Okay,
Also, I'm having a little trouble with, okay, what's the division of labor between the city and the county? Because you obviously overlap with certain things. If you're working on this bike trail up the Mill Creek, goes right through the city.
Oh yeah, it's right in the
Et cetera, those kinds of things. And also the stadium. Do you want to say anything about that?
Well, that's where we do not overlap. So let me just address the first one. So yeah, the bike trail work, we're working with the Crown. So the Crown is working with the city and the county and the private sector to leverage dollars to expand the multimodal transportation and primarily bike trails. So we're working with the city, and I talk a lot to Mark Jeffries, especially about there. And we're in lockstep about where those investments should go. The stadiums, on the other hand, are just county, because the sales tax is what supports the stadiums. And so the city gets admission tax from those stadiums, but they're not negotiating deals like we are. And our lease with the Bengals is up in 2026. We are working on that issue right now. And we're trying to get a better deal for the taxpayers. And we're trying to make sure that our investments in the stadium create an environment where that Bengal Stadium and the Red Stadium are good for a few decades so that we don't have to build new. The one thing that the Bengals and I agree on is that we don't need to build a new stadium because we've done a very good job of maintaining what we have. It's a county asset. And so we don't need to build new like many other communities do. We're able to build on what we already have. So it'll be cheaper. We still need to do some stuff to that stadium to make it more accessible from my vantage point, but we're working on it. But the city, there's no nexus there. The one where there's a nexus is the Convention Center District, where they own the Convention Center. We own the Millennium property just to the east, and the Port Authority owns property to the south. So we are working together with the city to revitalize that area, to bring more conventions into the city of Cincinnati, bigger conventions, more of them. The key to all of that is a headquarter hotel, which we are going to be building to the south of the convention center, and then looking to program the green space to the east for convention outdoor space, and eventually expand the exhibit space at the convention center. But these are long-term plans, but we are in lockstep with the city doing that work.
okay, great.
Commissioner, if I
Yep.
could jump in, that figure was 1.5 million, in case anybody didn't see it in the chat, for youth resiliency programming.
Thanks, Chris.
Great. Any other questions today? Well, I want to say thank you very much, Commissioner, for joining us.
Sure.
It's very good. And
Thank
if
you
there's
for your
any,
leadership. It's been awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you all for
Thank
having
you.
me on. Any time you want to talk, and next time we'll do more politics because we'll be closer to the election.
Okay. And I'm going to send it to Chris. I'll send him some information about how you can send messages. We have a newsletter that goes out to about 1,000 people. You can send it through us, some messages, that type of thing. I'll send information to Chris, and anything we can help you with, that would be great.
Appreciate it. Thanks for
Thank
your
you
time.
very much.
All
Thank
righty.
you,
Take
Denise.
care.
Thank you.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording now.